Howdy folks, welcome to another episode of the Snowy's Camping Show, bringing another banter bite to you today, another short episode. How are you today, Lauren?
I'm really good.
That's good. You're not shuffling your paper around because Larry, our editor, is going to get annoyed with the extra noise. So you got to sit still and not playing around with.
And no, it's mostly just because we just finished recording a super long, very exciting episode that should be with you next week.
Yes.
And we were sort of hoping to make it be this week, but we just wanted a little bit of extra time to make it look really nice. And so the notes here that I've got from that are a bit distracting. So I'm just folding my piece of paper so I can scribble for something entirely different.
I think our intro to the longer episode was shorter than this intro, and this is the short episode. So anyway, let's move on.
Great, let's go from our little chariot of goodness.
Well, we've got to make sure we do our intros.
Sorry.
We haven't actually done that bit yet.
Holy dooly, folks.
Not doing well. If you haven't already, subscribe on YouTube, your favourite podcast app, and join in on the conversation at the Snowy's Camping Banter Facebook group, where you can ask questions for more banter bites or questions on any of our episodes or any of our products or anything you want to know about camping. We've got a bunch of suppliers in there now. The supplier we just spoke to is in there, constantly looking at our customer questions. Great place to be part of the community. So banter bite today, I'll let you pull a banter bite out of our most useful stubby cooler in the world. You can buy these online, by the way. You won't be disappointed. What have we got? So for those who haven't listened, Banter Bites, we're trying to make them about 10 to 15-minute episodes, and we're just covering off on one question.
Yeah.
We've done 10 minutes so far.
We've done 2 drops so far, and yes.
10 minutes is pretty safe.
Yeah, I reckon. Anyway, right, so this question, how do camping toilets work?
Right, so that's
you sit on them and you do a poop.
Well, we don't need to cover the obvious, do we? But this probably comes from someone who, and more and more nowadays, campsites are requiring you to be completely self-sufficient. So carry in, carry out, you've got to have a camp toilet. So I guess we're getting more people coming now and saying, I need to get a camp toilet. What are the chemicals? How does this whole shebang work?
Yeah, and I'm guessing because obviously, we put new questions into our little chalice of whatever here weekly, and I reckon this one is very topical because we've had Julka toilet drop in the last week. They've got to go toilet. Now, I reckon we're going to go with how do camping toilets work. Let's talk about chemical toilets on those like sealed toilets or those whole unit sort of toilets.
So we're talking porta potty
type things, right?
Toilets.
Because I think all the rest are fairly self-explanatory. Would you say?
There's other types. Let's cover the cassette ones first, or the chemical ones. So chemical being you put water and chemicals in a toilet to use it. So it would have, if we talk porta potty, Thetford, probably the best known toilet brand around. It has a tank on the bottom that's detachable. That tank, you put a little bit of water and some chemical in. We'll talk about the chemicals more shortly. On top of that is the toilet bit, the bowl, I suppose, and the seat that looks more like your standard toilet, and kind of integrated in that somewhere is a flush tank. So you fill the top water with, you fill that right up with fresh water, and you add a bit of chemical in.
If you want to, don't have to, but it's recommended.
You do your business, you press flush, you flush the different types of flush mechanisms. Some are electronic, some are bellows, some are a pump. You then open up a little valve, you flush the bowl, it goes down into the bottom tank, you seal that up, and your business is sealed away. You could transport that, and then you dump that at designated dump points. You don't just dump it in the bush. You can't just tip it down a regular toilet. You've got to make sure you use the right chemicals. If you tip it into a septic tank, we'll touch on that shortly. But you need to dump at a designated dump point, which are usually marked. There's heaps of them around Australia, but a lot of caravans will go to empty their sullage into these points. You too could empty your porta potty or toilet into these points.
Yeah, and they've, you can get a map that shows you where all the dump points are for sullage and toilet waste and things like that.
Wikicamps and that's got all that marked on there.
But back to chemicals, because I've recently done a couple of videos on these, because that's probably the other most common question is, what chemical do I use in my toilet? It's actually really simple, although it can be overwhelming because there are lots of products around. The most common products are your Thetford. Again, they do the porta potty, so therefore their toilet chemicals are the most popular. So there are 3 main ones. There's your pink, your AquaRinse pink, your AquaChem green, and your AquaChem blue. Basically, your AquaChem green and blue are exactly the same. Green is just septic tank tank safe. So it's a little bit more environmentally friendly than blue. And so whichever waste that goes in your waste tank, they both do the same thing. I think the dosage rate is pretty much the same. Just whether or not you want to dump it into septic tank is going to be the key difference between what you want to use there. And then the pink goes in your rinse water.
Top tank.
In the top tank. One keeps the rinse water a bit fresh and it smells nice. But the other thing that it can do, and the main reason why you'd use it, is that every time it flushes, it creates a bit of a coating on the inside of the bowl, which is slippery, right? So it just means that everything just goes down into the waste chamber the way that it should without too much hassle and fuss.
Yeah, no skid marks.
No skid marks. And so basically your waste in the bottom is going to break down and deodorize. Essentially, that's ultimately what it's
the
doing.
Chemicals are there for, to break
it's
it
breaking
down.
it down and deodorizing.
So when you empty it out, you're emptying liquid.
Basically,
Yeah.
yep.
So and these tanks are designed with a large spout and a little valve. So when you're tipping, there's no glugging.
Don't have to see
or splashing.
Don't have to
or anything.
It's not gross. It's very sort of straightforward.
Set up to easily empty it.
Yeah, and a lot of them also have a little tap and a hose there that you can sort of rinse in the cap as well, and that sort of rinses out into your dump point too.
So for those who haven't used them, it sounds kind of gross. You're carrying all your stuff around that you probably don't want to be carrying around, but heaps of people are doing it. Caravans have got these integrated into the caravan. You'll see people walking across the caravan site with a little cassette on a trolley quite often. They're emptying their silage. Like it's a common thing in the camping caravan industry.
So let's go on to the Gotta Go Julka Gotta Go toilets now, because these are, you look at them and they look, it's a porta potty. You know what I mean? It's, Dometic did also do a porta potty toilet, but it's different, right? And you've done the video on these, but it's flushless it's flexible.
So these are a chemical toilet but don't have a flush tank, so you're carrying less weight. You got water in the bottom, and they have a puka stick that you wrap in toilet paper to clean the bowl. And you can use a bit of that rinse aid in the spray bottle that's included, or some vinegar and water mix to kind of clean the bowl, but you're not carrying as much weight. But the concept of how to empty it and the actual cassette is really easy to empty, easier than the Thetfords because it's not a large flat device. It's just a little, like a bucket almost that you can empty.
Yeah, it's like one of those little rectangular mop buckets, right? Like it's
like
not overly big. The thing that I really love about the Julka toilet is that, different to your Thetford porta potties and things like that, is that it separates your urine from your solids, basically. So when you are, you can just tip your urine out in a bush, I guess.
You can tip your urine out with some consideration in the bush because it's just liquid, but the hard solid waste gets broken down with the same chemicals. You put water and chemical in there, it breaks down, and then you can empty that at a silage point. So it separates it out, less smell, really ingenious way of using a toilet without all the weight and all the water that you need of the toilets we talked about before. They also offer, and these are the other types of toilets you can use, and that's a bagged toilet where you bag your waste and just dispose of it at a landfill where you're allowed to, or a composting toilet. And that might make people sound gross too, but you can compost your waste and then use it in your garden. So you can get a different cassette for the Julka Gotta Go toilet, and this is where this is really versatile, or you can actually buy composting toilets or bagged toilets as a separate item. They're not something we have. Julka's the only one we have that is a composting or bagged type toilet. Composting, you put sawdust or peat moss in there, a little bit of essential oils if you want to control the odor, do your business, compost it down and empty that somewhere where you're allowed to use compost or happy to use compost. So that's the other option for toilet. The most common toilet though is the chemical toilet because it's closest to what we've got, what we use at home. The Julka Gotta Go, I think, is a really good option because you put about maybe 12 to 15 litres of rinse water in a Thetford.
That's heavy, man.
Which is a lot of extra weight. And you got to carry
water
that
as well if you're camping. And
you got to carry that in and out the car. Whereas the Julka toilet is 3 litres of water, 100 mils of chemical, and the weight just adds up as you empty yourself out into it. So it's less weight to carry around, but otherwise the functionality is pretty much the same.
I think so. Realistically, the difference is if you're like, I really want a chemical toilet, but which one do I go with? Something like the Gotta Go, Julka Gotta Go, or the Thetford toilet porta potties. There's no difference other than the Gotta Go doesn't have a flush tank. You get your spray bottle, you can put your aqua rinse in it, you can still do the same sort of thing. It just doesn't have a flush tank, but you can still use it exactly the same way.
Yep.
A really common question that I get probably a couple of times a week, even sometimes, is can I buy another waste tank for my Thetford porta potty? Because, I just want to have a second or a backup. You can't. And the places that you can get them from, it's basically going to be the same cost to buy a whole nother toilet, right? They're not cheap. Whereas something like your Julka, you can buy those cassette, like the waste insert separately, right? So that means you can buy the chemical version or the eco version, depending on which one. The only difference is the cassette that's in it. So you can buy the chemical one and then you can buy the eco cassette and swap them out and have flexibility with your toilet if you want.
Or 2 chemical ones, fill one up.
Or 2 chemical ones, fill one up, switch it out. Super straightforward, super easy.
They're hermetically sealed, so that once they're out and sealed, there's no odor in your car. You've just got a bucket of waste sitting in the back until you can get to a dump point to get rid of it.
Yep.
The bagged ones are probably, I'm not as big on the bagged ones. You can use biodegradable bags. I'm not sure how quickly those bags break down before it's no longer in a bag and it's just in the cassette. You could just use standard plastic bags. You want to make sure you get rid of that at a dump point, or it'd be landfill, that you'd have to get rid of that. Not as nice to do, I suppose. I'd probably rather go to a dump point. Important thing to note though, that caravan parks, long drops, toilets by national parks, generally you can't empty your toilet into those. They don't like you to do that.
Yeah.
So if you're using a toilet, use a designated dump point where you're allowed to dump those things. Don't mess up the other toilets for everyone else. They're there for people who don't have those facilities.
Yeah, for sure. All
cool.
right, hope that helps. If you want to dive more into the world of camping toileting, check out episode 51 we've done in the past, Taking Care of Business. Pretty clever title there. Yep. And that goes a bit more in depth into all sorts of options and everything to do with toileting whilst you're camping.
And plenty of videos on toilets on our website if you want to see both Thetford and the recent Julka Got to Go toilet too.
No worries.
Cool. Thanks,
hope you
guys.
have a great day.
See you next time.